So you're very welcome to the irishboxing.com preview show. We're here, myself and Joe, going to preview Michael Conlan versus Leigh Wood for the WA featherweight world title. Joe, how's it going, pal?
Oh, good to be in Nottingham. It's actually a nice city,
isn't it?
It's small, and you're able to walk. Like, I got a text from you there, be like, "Do you want to do this?" And I was like, "Where are you?" 10 minutes away.
Yeah,
like everything's so nice and small and like really accessible. It's a good city.
Yeah, it's deadly. It's really nice. I have to say, I've been here before, but I didn't remember it. Like, it's a quality little place.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, let's get right into it. We had the weigh-in today for Leigh Wood versus Michael Conlan. I said it wrong at the start, but yeah, what did you make of it? It was raucous atmosphere. It got very noisy at one point.
Yeah, like I was in a bar there with one of Leigh Wood's close family friends, and he was talking about how he was been following Leigh since he was an amateur, and that, like, we all know Mick, everyone went over to New York, we've all been to the Fela, he's very, very popular, but Leigh Wood is a big deal in Nottingham, and that, like, I think he was saying that Leigh Wood's auntie is selling tickets, and she'd sold something like 60,000 worth of tickets. Like, lots and lots of people are coming. Like, there is a lot of goodwill, and we did see that at the weigh-in, that there probably there's no probably about it. There were more people for Leigh Wood there. We're expecting the troops to come in tomorrow morning from Ireland, but like it's not going to be like an Irish takeover by any means. It is going to be close to 50-50 probably, and it will be. And that was good, even though like there weren't that many Irish there this morning. There still was that sort of back and forth.
There was, yeah.
It was just good crack, and like it was a real sort of fight. Like, so many times we go to these fights and it's A against B, and the B is a very small lowercase b, whereas these are two guys who both have thousands of people there following them, and like I'm so excited about it.
Oh man, I have to echo that sentiment. Like, when it started getting really noisy today around the weigh-in, and Mick kind of went a bit mad, didn't he? And kind of got in his face and was shouting. I was getting goosebumps. I was thought, now we've arrived. Now this is it. Like, it's really starting to kick off. I really got excited. I absolutely can't wait. So let's talk a little bit about the actual fight itself. We know that, as we said there's going to be so many Irish fans in the building. It's going to be a raucous atmosphere. But in there, how do you see it playing out?
Well, just focusing on weigh-in that we just saw there a few hours ago, I do sort of see it telling that, like, Mick, like, I just saw the matchroom video there of the actual, what words were said between the two when they were nose to nose, and Mick described Leigh as being, debt warmed up, that, like, and to be honest, we've seen Mick, he's been sort of in between super bantamweight and featherweight, and he hasn't looked great sometimes, where I thought he looked quite well today,
yes,
whereas Leigh Wood didn't look the best, and he did have maybe it was a bit of a tell if we're going into poker, but he was delighted that he made weight, and I'm just wondering, did he have a tough night? He was a bit, like, in all the post weigh-in interviews, he was a bit quiet, whereas Mick was loving it. Like, he really, like, considering this is a guy who's walked into 5,000 at Madison Square Garden, he's walked into 10,000 at the Fela, all cheering for him. He had a few hundred lads from Nottingham there, like, booing him there, and he was loving it. Like, I think he is really, really up for this.
Yeah, he definitely is. That was the one thing I got from it. Like, I don't think Mick can be phased. And I think that's one of the advantages that he has going in, is that he's so battle hardened from all of his career, not just from the pros and having the debut in MSG and the Fela shows and all, but having the despair that he suffered at the Olympics and having that kind of tough amateur career and being a star in Ireland for so long. I think that really, again, it kind of has hardened him. And I think you could throw bricks at him, you could do whatever you want to him, and it wouldn't faze him. He'd go into that fight tomorrow night, and he'll be settled down, and he'll get his plan off.
Well, that's the thing as well. With Leigh Wood will like to talk, and his team, and I can understand they'd like to talk about like how he's had hard on the way up, but like it's hard at the top too. Like Mick has had this like this microscope on him this entire time through his entire career. Every single fight, every time he didn't knock out someone in the first round, it's like, oh, Mick Conlan, he's boring, isn't he? Or he's not as good to be taught. Like you all said, he was going to be brilliant, and he's not knocking guys out in one round. He's not Lomachenko, and like he's had to deal with that. I even like he's in a way he's not dealing with it, and he's stepped off social media. Like he knows what he can do, and I really think that we're going to see. Like I really think he's going to prove a lot of people wrong. He's going to like impress a lot of people. A lot of people have sort of written him off, have been very dismissive of him, and I think he's going to prove a lot of people wrong tomorrow night.
Yeah. So I have to agree with you on that one as well. We're going to agree on a lot of points here, Joe. I feel. But no, I think you're right, and I think we've seen with the TJ fight at the Fela that he rose his game there as well. Like that was a better opponent. That was his best opponent to date. There was Needle. It was all Irish. It was more exciting. There was more on the line, and we saw him fight much better than he's ever fought in his life. Well, in my opinion, that was his best performance. His most versatile, and he looked more powerful as well. Yeah. He showed a lot more. I think we're going to see the same tomorrow night. I think we're going to see another raise in level from Michael Conlan.
Well, yeah, like I do like to have a flutter on fights occasionally, but I don't want it on this fight because, and this is purely because, like the bookies would say Mick on points is the most likely outcome, but I'm not sure. I think that the difference between him is that stark that like I wouldn't be banking on Mick to win on points, because I think that he is that much above, that I think he has that much more to show that he could actually stop Leigh Wood. So I'm not overly confident on Mick by points, which is the sort of the industry choice at the minute, which I think it's likely that it could happen, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, towards the back end. Yeah, I think if his gas tank is good and he's having his way with Leigh for the most part, he could start to really get to him. I think he has to demoralise him a bit in the first half of the fight, and if he gets to that stage where he is clearly winning, Leigh will have to try and force it a little bit more, and he'll start to create more openings, and he'll also get a bit, as I said, demoralised by the fact that he's not having much success. And I think Mick then maybe could find some more openings and have a chance to maybe put him away late, but we'll see.
I think the winning and losing this fight is the first 4 rounds. That if Leigh Wood can hurt Mick Conlan early, then not knock him out early necessarily, but just hurt him early and bring it into a real fight between rounds 5 and 12. Yeah. Then you could see something. You could see a brilliant fight. But I honestly think Mick is gonna bamboozle him to a degree in the first early couple of rounds, and then it's going to be a bit of a death by 1,000 cuts in the end. And like I think we are going to be. Midway through the fight, we're going to be turning to each other and asking, like, will he be able to stop him? Like, he's that. Like, I honestly think it is going to be that sort of fight.
Yeah. Why do you think nobody? I mean, it might be a silly question in a way, because obviously a lot of the people we're dealing with and we're seeing are English or are more neutral. Why is no one else seeing it this way? That Mick is kind of levels above in terms of skill. Like, is it about narrative? Or is people just trying to sell the fight? What do you think?
There's a bit of narrative. There's a bit of just location and platform, that if you go through mixed fights, a lot of them have been late at night on American cards that you wouldn't get a lot of people watching. Mixed main fights on this side of the Atlantic have been I suppose you have the Adilson de Santos fight, which was a wide point, maybe a bit boring. Jason Cunningham was seen as a bit of a war, and like, you're struggling a bit with Jason Cunningham, who has gone on to prove that he is a European level fighter. Yeah. And then you'd think, look, Leigh Wood on the absolute opposite. He has his big opportunity on a matchroom fight camp card, and it's a big deal. He stopped Zhukan. Obviously, that's the best win that either of them have, I think. But that gets people maybe overestimating Leigh Wood to a bit, and yet they're just not seeing a lot of Mick Conlan. So I really, really think that there's, and I like, how much do we care about what people think? But yeah, I think there is an underestimation of Mick Conlan and maybe a slight overestimation of Leigh Wood, because again, Conlan made the point, Zhukan had been out for a while. And then I would make the point that Zhukan, was he ever good in the or was he ever that good in the first place, that there was maybe a few political or economic thing there to have a Chinese fighter coming through. Like Top Rank used to do a lot of stuff in Macau, and they wanted a superstar. They had Zhu Shiming, they had Rexo, they had Zhukan. They were trying to get someone good there, and then they sort of they went away from Macau, and then you see Zhukan ends up a lot of time out of the ring, ends up on a matchroom fight card, Eddie's back garden, against one of Eddie's guys, who and this is another thing, we all know that matchroom maybe aren't as protective as their fighters as they may have previously been. So they were like, oh, this is a good fight. If Leigh Wood wins, we have a new champion. If he loses, oh, it's a good fight in the card. And they've after getting champion out of this, and now they're taking this opportunity. But I do think the sort of Leigh Wood fairy tale is going to end tomorrow night.
Yeah, well, I agree. So let's have a little look at the rest of the card. Well, specifically the Irish influence on the undercard. We're very lucky with this card. I think we've got not only 3 other Irish fighters, but 3 really up and coming, young, exciting Irish fighters who I think are all going to prove just how good they are and how good they can be this weekend. We'll start with I think he's actually the chief support, CAOIMHIN AGYARKO, who's fighting Juan Carlos Rubio. I kept forgetting his name all week, but you've reminded me, Joe. Thanks. What do you make of the fight, and what's your thoughts on CAOIMHIN going into this weekend? Does he need to impress? Has he already?
Yeah, he definitely needs to impress, because like Eddie, he's made no bones about it. He wants to come back to Belfast with CAOIMHIN AGYARKO, but he has the bones of it there, but he needs a good performance from CAOIMHIN. He needs a bit of excitement going. So if CAOIMHIN wins a wide 10-round boring sort of fight, I don't know if there's going to be the buzz. You get CAOIMHIN getting a stoppage, getting the crowd going wild, you get the interview in the ring, like it all just it's a nice little package then to go forth into towards the end of the year, having a big fight in Belfast. I think the fact that Hassan and Dam and Jikam isn't in this fight, having previously they were looking to make that fight, probably a good thing, because there's the possibility of getting him in Belfast. I think that would be a nice fight in Belfast. I thought that, like, there's no rush given he's in his mid-20s and he's established enough as a name, so you can have this fight with a Mexican southpaw ticking a few boxes. He's, from what I've seen of him, he's a bit more aggressive than Noel Arias, and I think we're going to see CAOIMHIN rounds 4 to 6 going to knock him out, look good, and get people really excited. It's right before main event, so you're imagining that like the 3,000 or 4,000 Irish people are going to be in there. CAOIMHIN's smart enough as well. He's not he is aware that like it's all very Irish. He's going to really be soaking in the limelight, really going to be looking to impress. Look, like he'll say all the right things in the post-fight interview, hopefully. And I do think this is a perfect little platform for him.
It is, isn't it? Strategic from Eddie Hearn to put him as chief support.
Oh, very,
It's like get as many people in the building as possible for CAOIMHIN's fight. I think if there is any criticism of CAOIMHIN, perhaps, and this is a narrative that I've heard over the last kind of couple of weeks, is that he's obviously ability wise he's excellent, but perhaps the ticket selling ability or that side of him is not as developed as it could be, or in comparison to other lads from Belfast who are probably not operating at as high a level as him. So maybe that's a side of his persona and his brand that needs to be built a little. And I mean, this is a very good way of doing it, you know. Yeah,
like that is actually a really interesting conversation that like you can have outside of Belfast and Ireland. And like CAOIMHIN is very like, what, I'm 29, you're 28. He seems a lot younger than us. Like he's very cool and trendy, whereas if you think back to,
we're cool too, Joe.
We are not as cool as CAOIMHIN in his very nice clothes, and like there is a bit of a what you call it, like millennial Gen Z sort of thing, where, and there was I got a bit of that with Ryan Burnett as well, whereas the likes of Frampton, obviously Rogie was a bit older, but like there was a bit more buy-in from everyone, and I think CAOIMHIN will get there eventually. And I do think the fact that he maybe does appeal to the, I'm going to sound so old, the younger generation. It's like I think he is going to tick all the boxes. I don't think he's there just yet. Like you think, if you think back to the Fela, maybe Paddy McCrory, maybe a couple of years older, he gets the lads and the dads on board, if that makes sense. Whereas CAOIMHIN is maybe only just at the minute with the lads. Maybe he just needs to. And I think profile, being on big cards, will sort of bridge that gap. He does like, whereas rather than just his personality, the fact that he's in big fights is gonna like definitely do a lot of good from there.
100%. I think just being on matchroom shows and just that alone, and being a little bit higher up the card, is like this natural kind of
the event junkie boost sort of thing. If there's going to be a big fight in Belfast, you might go to it now.
Yeah, exactly. So let's move down the card again. I'm a little bit upset that Gary Cully and Miguel Vasquez seems to be the opening bout of the main card.
Yeah, it's either the opening or the second bout. It's early anyway, yeah.
Like,
and
I don't know about you, Joe, but for me, that's the next fight on the card. Not only skill-wise, but significance-wise as well.
No. In
the lightweight division, I mean, Vasquez is by no means done. I think it's fair to say he's still ranked at like number 4 in the WBA. Now we can talk about rankings all day if we want, but it's still significant, and he's still operating at a very high level. If you actually watch him fight in the last couple of years, he's still fighting at a high level. I think this is a fantastic fight. What do you think?
Gary Cully is from Naas. If Gary Cully wasn't from Nottingham and I hadn't heard of him, and I saw like Miguel Vasquez 5-1 to beat a guy who was 12-13-0, had fought a couple of decent lads but hadn't fought anyone near his level. I think this is a better fight than AGYARKO Rubio. It's a closer fight.
Definitely.
I think the fact that Vasquez is coming down in weight. I think the fact that like Vasquez, his debated losses against O'Hara Davis and Lewis Ritson, they're a weight above against guys who, like Lewis Ritson was fighting for a European title, O'Hara Davis was like golden contract, all like they are way, way, way above Gary Cully and the weight above as well, and Miguel Vasquez has beaten them essentially.
Yeah.
Like this is a really, really difficult fight, and it has annoyed me a little bit. Obviously the placement of the fight, but the fact that like it's sort of saying like, oh, Miguel Vasquez, oh, he's so old, but he's great. Like he's like, can Gary Cully make a statement? Gary Cully beaten Miguel Vasquez. If Gary Cully beats him by 1 point, that's an incredible win. And if you go through all the other lightweights in Ireland and the UK, no one would have as good a win on their record. If you go through Europe, maybe it's European champion Patera. He's probably the only one that's above a win over Vasquez at lightweight, where Vasquez hasn't really fought in the last almost 5-7 years. Like it's a really, really difficult fight. And yeah, as I mentioned in the podcast earlier in the week, I do think this is a sort of that what Gary Cully and Anthony Fitzpatrick have been bugging Eddie Hearn, give us a chance, and Eddie's like, I don't need a fighter from the south of Ireland. I'll give you a chance. Here's a really difficult fight against a really awkward guy. If you can do something special against him, you'll see that you're definitely something special. So it is like, it's a bit of a catch-22 for him, but I do, like, I've been close to the Gary Cully camp for a good few years now, and I do think it's a tough fight. I do think he will win, but it's by no means a sure thing.
No, I don't think it is. And even I had a chat with Gary the other day, and he said something very refreshing to me. He just said, people are saying to me that I'm gonna smoke this guy.
Yeah.
That's a ludicrous statement to make. He said he was looking at me like dead, he was like, he's really good. Like, and he's not easy to hit, like, and he's very nimble, and he makes life difficult for you. He goes, I'm going to have to try and break this guy down. This is not an easy fight. And he said that to me. You know what I mean? I didn't try and tease it out of him or anything. So I think that's really promising as well, that, you know, his head is on his shoulders for this one. He kind of knows. He knows what he's facing. He knows what he's getting in there with, but he's fully confident, and he has belief that he can get the job done as well. It's a tough fight, isn't it? It's a tough fight, but is Gary Cully as special as the people around him are telling us?
I do think he does have something that a lot of fighters like, and what's the, like, all the cliches, the Roy Keane, like, it's what 10% like perspiration, or like you know, like, and Gary Cully does tick every box. He is a hard worker. He is committed. He is clean living. He
does everything right outside of training, like,
and is ready to jump into these fights. Because, like, if he wasn't didn't have the outside of the ring sort of attributes that he does have, you'd be thinking, this is a mad fight to have. You haven't fought since last summer, and now you're 7 months later jumping like probably 2 or 3 levels up against.
I'd say at least 3 levels. Joe.
Yeah, like it's in a way. Like, and that's why I go back to where I said at the start. If he was from Nottingham, I'd be like, this is a crazy fight. This guy's like, this is prime
lump on Miguel Vasquez,
this is a prime opportunity for an upset here. But I just think Gary Cully is that good, and I really hope he does win, and I really hope he does get the credit for it, because I'm going to be beating that drum on Sunday morning if he does get the win, because this is a serious win.
Yeah, very much so. I 100% agree. And if he can do it in fashion, which might be difficult, but if he can break him down, I think I was again chatting to him. He reckons maybe late. If you're gonna get him, it'll be late, because he's gonna have to try and pin him down and hurt him in the first 6 rounds, and then in the back half of the fight, maybe he can get him. But it also depends on what Miguel Vasquez tries to do in the fight. I mean, we've seen him against Lewis Ritson. He just ran around on the back foot all night and just jabbed his head off. And for me, won easy. So if he decides to
Josh Taylor, Josh Taylor took a while to break him down. He's the weight above, and he's a very heavy puncher at the weight above. It's not like, I think maybe you see the Kotochkov knockout and you think, oh, Gary Cully has this great power, but we're talking about levels here. It is a very, very tough fight.
Yeah, he's a good few levels above Kotochkov. 100%, but that's a fight that we look forward to. With any luck, you never know. Sometimes the running order can change a little on fight day, so we'll see. I would love to see that fight a little higher up the card, especially because there'll be more people in the arena. Get the Irish in the door, because we know what the fucking Irish are like. They're all going to be in the pub. You know what I mean? So
Ireland against England as well. That's a thing that's just in my head as well. That that match is going to be going on till near 7 o'clock. Gary's getting in the ring. It's round 7. The
only thing that I would say is Thomas Carty has a good few people coming, and we're going to touch on Thomas now. But he has a good few people coming, Townie fans as he put it, and they will be in there to watch him. So you'd like to think that they'll then hang on, and then Gary will have his guys. He has 200 odd fans coming as well, I think. So there should be at least a good 400 or 500 Irish in there at the very least for Gary. So we hope that we still get a good crowd for him. So let's move on and talk about the last Irish fighter on the card. He's not opening the card, but he's second on the bill. He's gonna fight on Before the Bell, which is the kind of YouTube broadcast pre the main card, if you like. Outside
of Mick, he's probably gonna get most eyes on him. YouTube free, people are gonna tune in.
Yeah. Thomas Carty, obviously the big fella from Fibsborough and Dublin. What do you make of? Well, I spoke to Eddie Hearn today, and he's really beating the drum of this opponent is not coming to lie down. This is a really hard fight for Thomas Carty. Does that make you nervous, Joe?
If Thomas had a difficult enough debut against a guy who wasn't there to lay down. His second fight was a bit of a... He was against a guy, I think the guy was Lithuanian or Latvian, who was just there to survive. The guy he fought in his first fight came to fight, and Thomas came to that handy enough, and I think that will stand to him. You see so often with guys, they go through 10 fights, everyone just cowering up and going down, and then they fight someone who stands up against them and they suddenly panic. Whereas I think Thomas has maybe had that already. He's had the tough sparring. I think he will be okay, and I think it is good. We should be celebrating this, that he has a guy who's coming back to fight against him. It's a bit of a real fight, rather than, and the Polish guys usually are solid enough and strong enough, and they do have a nice little scene there where they all fight against each other, and the ones who maybe get a couple of wins might get over and be on one of the big cards.
Definitely.
And I'm not going to complain about him having a tough fight, and I think with Thomas as well, it's a case of have these tough fights and keep winning these fights, and then getting impress Eddie and keep getting on these cards, rather than, because no one wants to see his last fight. It was great for him to get another win on his record and just keep active, but it wasn't a good fight to look at because your man was so negative and didn't even have the decency to get knocked out properly. He just sort of he was brilliant. Trying to survive, and then just sort of slumped into the ropes, and it doesn't look good. Eddie wasn't particularly, and none of this is Thomas's fault. Obviously, Thomas wants this sort of fight, and it's good that he's gotten it. A guy who thinks he's going to come to win. We all sort of know Thomas has he has pedigree from the amateurs. He's been sparring well, and this is the sort of guy that is primed to be knocked out or be in a good fight, and allow Thomas to show what he can actually do. Exactly.
If this guy who's in shape, he looks like he believes himself a little bit. He looks like he thinks, do you know what, this Irish lad's only 2-0. I can do one over on this lad. If he comes to try and win the fight, which by all accounts he is, I think we've seen Thomas enough to know that He's good on his feet. He's very powerful. He has good amateur pedigree, and this guy could be walking onto some big bombs if he does come to fight. It's an interesting one. I mean, backed by Dillian Whyte as well, which means a lot. A lot of people are shouting Thomas's name, saying that he's very good. He has a lot of potential. Do you think there's a danger that it could kind of go to his head a few fights in? He goes 4, 5, 6, and now all of a sudden he starts maybe believing in his own hype. And it's something he said to me actually the other day. I'm starting to I want to believe in my own hype. That's what AJ said to Lawrence Cody. You need to believe in your own hype. I'm not sure if he worded that correctly. I think you need to believe in yourself, but maybe believing in your own hype can be quite detrimental. What's your kind of view on that? Do you think there's a possibility of that happening? A danger maybe?
Well, I think when you don't have a promotional contract and you have to do the grind that Thomas is doing, he's gone out, he's trying to get sponsors, he's trying to sell tickets, he's working hard. Like, you can't, like, he's not getting anything easy, even though, like, he does have these great opportunities. He is working for them. He's not being told he's the next heavyweight champion of the world, which is maybe refreshing. Maybe this is a question to ask in 3 or 4 fights time, but at the moment he still seems pretty hungry. Yeah, I do think this fight is going to give him the platform and opportunity, and like give him the confidence as well. Like, it's good to believe in your own hype, but it is also good to have the have something to show for it as well. Like, his first fight was on point, second fight was a messy knockout. This, I do think, will be a bit more competitive and a bit more decisive as well. Yeah, exactly. I agree with that completely. To round off, Joe, what do you think of the rest of the card? I know it's not directly Irish related, but happy enough with the card as a whole, aside from the Irish interest, which we are obviously very happy with? Well, I am interested to see Sandy Ryan. She's managed by Paul Reedy. I've known a lot of her from the amateurs. She's turned over. She's moving quite quickly. She has an Irish ma as well, which is always nice to see. And she does have...
Shout out Sandy Ryan's ma, yeah.
She does have something you don't see in a lot of female fighters, in that she just seems to have a bit more snap in her punches, and she is extremely aggressive, very entertaining to watch.
She's a spiteful girl.
Yeah.
She wants to have a fight, like.
And yeah, I do think she, like, I know Paul Reedy's looking to move towards a sort of a all-English Chantel Cameron versus Sandy Ryan fight soon enough. And like, Sandy Ryan has that much pedigree. Like, I am really excited to see how far she goes, because I do think she's like unified champion sort of level fighter. You've Terry Harper moving up. It is interesting in terms of Katie Taylor. Maybe she's an option there. The weight issue was apparently a thing with the Baumgartner fight. It's a bit of a shame she's not fighting Heather Hardy, although by all intents and purposes this opponent is probably going to be tougher than Hardy, who was coming up in weight, but Hardy is such a big name in boxing.
Much bigger name, exactly.
It would have got it. It's a little bit like AGYARKO versus Rubio, that like Ndam was a much bigger name, but like how much does he have left? And then you're going early on the card, you've Nico Levers and Thomas Whitaker Hart, who we're hoping sort of just to like get going early.
Go on, boys.
Something like Nico Levers has sold something like 450 tickets, so I understand completely. But it's going to be a nice compact card as well. Like, Kid Galahad was meant to be fighting Jorge Castaneda on the card.
Yeah, it would have been a tidy little fight.
It would have been a good fight. It's sort of a shame, but also like, I think more than most, being at a card and sometimes you're waiting for the main event and suddenly it's ticking past 11 o'clock and then Mick Conlan has a 10-minute long walk in, and like you sometimes just want to get home at some stage. So I think it's a nice compact card. Like, you're looking at there's 5 TV fights, 3 of them have Irish, one of them Sandy Ryan, who's half Irish. Like, it's a strong card for Irish fans. 100%.
Look, Joe, we'll leave it there. Guys, thanks for tuning in to the preview show for Leigh Wood versus Michael Conlan. This is Joe. My name is Sam. You're watching IrishBoxing.com. Tune into the fight tomorrow night.